fix your anger. It's very tragic what's happened in the news, but look at also that is an example of hate, and it's very wrong what has happened. And but in front of you, this is an example of human beings as well, who put their life at complete risk to save your dog. That dog who was able to make you get up back on your feet again, right? So this is an example of love. Focus on love.
Welcome to the Immigrant Experience in America, an immigrant human library, where we amplify and humanize the experiences of immigrants in the United States and around the world. Listen in as we add another story to our immigrant human library.
So I go back home and I sit down. During that time, I'm like, I'm going to make a list of everything good and everything bad that I have endured in this country. And I'm going to make, like, literally, I'm going to compare what has happened in terms of right or wrong. And as I started making that list, I actually realized that my blessings are way more than, the tragedies or the problems that I've encountered. And in anyone's life, that is the case. If we actually sit down and we make a list of everything good and bad that we've been through, we will realize that everything that is, everything that we receive, even on a daily basis. And that is why maybe therapists ask us to maintain a gratitude journal, right? That list is always way longer. And so I was able to anchor myself towards something positive once again. As soon as I have that realization, I see on social media, on Facebook, the story of a man called Richard Phillips, who was incarcerated for 46 years for a crime that he had not committed. So this black man, he was put behind bars for murdering somebody. He had not murdered that person. And in order to keep himself sane through those 46 long years in Michigan, he would get up every day in the morning and he would make a watercolor painting. So as soon as I have this realization that I need to understand something from this incident on the streets with my dog, that's when this story flashes. And I'm able to connect this with that. And I'm like, there's a message here again for me, So Richard would get up in the morning, make a watercolor painting, and keep it away. And today he's a free man, and he has this huge collection of watercolor paintings. He is kind of world famous, and he's made money and things like that. But in order to endure those 46 years of such humiliation, where even some members of his own family thought that, yeah, maybe he did it, right? In order to keep himself sane through that, he tried to do something with one thing that he had in abundance, which was time. Nobody could control his time, right? And I thought that both Richard and me are in prisons of two kinds. Mine is the gilded cage. His is a real prison, a real jail. And so if, as a creative man, he can do something in terms of watercolors, I'm a creative person, I'm a writer, I'm going to sit down and write my story. So I literally copied what Richard did every day. Says he made one watercolor painting. I said, I'm just going to start with 100 to 200 words of my manuscript, right? Where I wanted to document everything that I had been through as a brown immigrant woman. But it just started off with, Varuni, try to write 100 to 200 words. And that's when, like, 2020 also happens, and my husband's back and all of that. And so he has to go into COVID cases, right? He has to, because a lot of people started getting strokes because of COVID. And there was a real risk that he could die. And I could contract the virus too, because he's been exposed so much, and his colleagues had died. So yeah, he made it into a joke, but it was very serious for us, because he's like, now you actually have a real deadline, Varuni, because we will be dead if you don't write your story, right? So it was with that seriousness that I actually got my first manuscript very seriously up, because before that I had attempted to write my story, but not with the seriousness of finishing it and sending it to editors who can actually help me make the book into a more refined piece, and then pitching it to, like, publishing houses or literary agents and things like that. It was during COVID, when we faced a real threat of death, that I became serious. Yeah.
So tell me what's the name of the first book?
It's It's called Golden Handcuffs: An Immigrant's Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. And which you're detailing, telling us more about your journey being a H4, then an F1, back to an H4, and losing your position.
Yeah. So the story is essentially the story of everything that I told you. It's about. I think that I wrote this story with all these immigrant women in mind, but as people are reading the story, I'm realizing that such challenges are present in anyone's life, you know, where we imagine that life is going to go in a certain direction, but in a matter of like seconds or, in a moment, your life can turn upside down. You could turn a corner and something could be waiting for you, which could completely wreck your life. But what do you do when you're in that position where everything, you kind of lose everything? How do you pull yourself out of despair back into hope or back towards light? So this book is essentially what I learned on the streets when I walked on the streets. And it is a beautiful love story because it has all the elements of a girl falling in love with a guy, going to a new country. It has all those elements as well. So it's a who people who are reading it, they're finding it very interesting because it moves really fast. uh, there was somebody who read the book and she wrote a review that you should never say that a person's life is like a thriller, but this goes so fast that once people fall into it, which is just the first 2 or 3 chapters, they can't seem to stop. um, and But yeah, it leaves people with a feeling of hope, with a feeling of how do you take power back, no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter what your circumstances are, because life is going to do that to all of us. It's going to, yeah, it's going to throw that challenge or that curveball, and then it's what you do after that which kind of defines who you are. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I was so unaware of this H4 experience, but you've really enlightened me today. And so, I mean, I see these women all the time, but I have no idea that this is like so much of their experience. And but the thing that comes to mind for me is I'm actually in the writing process myself. And part of my research with culture shock, I can imagine you were experiencing some culture shock too, having been raised in one country for like 20 something years. And then now you're in another country. I too had to go from British English to American English.
Yeah.
But, I didn't go through that immediate journey of starting over in university, working and going through. I've have had some of those, the office pet to the office threat experiences, so many over and over again. It seems like every workplace I go into, they hire you because you're so competent and you have great resume and you do good work, but then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they get threatened because you're never going to get the promotion to get that job that you deserve because they want it for somebody else, one of their friends or whoever
Yeah.
they want to put in it, right? Because
Yeah.
you have too much melanin to fit that role. There are support groups out there. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, yeah. There are those groups, and the only thing is that when I go in these groups and I read what they're going through on a daily basis, I do realize that they are struggling with a lot of shame and low self-esteem, and that's why a lot of their posts are anonymously written because they don't want to even identify themselves. In South Asian milieu, we are discouraged from talking about anything that brings too much negative attention to our families. It's very important to maintain an image of a very selfless, supportive wife. That is ingrained into us from such a young age that women who would actually come out and speak about their problems in the public domain, any problem, even if it's like a miscarriage and things like that, right? They're like looked down upon. They're like, you're not supposed to do that. Okay. So,
Wow.
so for they will not talk about this because that is not something which they have been trained to do
Yeah,
as good women.
right. Culturally, and that's I'm learning that culture shock can literally lead people harming themselves. Wow, I'm glad you're on the other side of it. So what's going on with Varuni today? I hope you and your husband are still together and you've made it past the dark sides of the experience. What's going on with both of you?
Yeah, we were able to heal our relationship. It did take a lot of work in terms of not only working with a therapist, but also meditating every day. So I meditate for close to about 40 minutes to an hour every day. I paint as well. So I used to paint with my fingers in India, but I developed another style of painting where I work with fine lines and I make paintings of gods and goddesses from around the world. That also is very anchoring for me on a daily basis, has allowed me to connect with other painters, not only in New York, but like around, because I'm part of certain online groups where we connect and make art together on a weekly basis. Um, but writing in itself can be a very healing journey, you know. So just writing my own story down, but writing with the aim of shining a kind of like shining some sort of hope for other women who I know or other individuals who can be stuck in this situation, right? Um, so writing with that purpose has allowed me to uh, not not engage with that pain anymore. So while I'm aware that I went through all this, I'm able to I'm able to kind of compartmentalize and say, yes, that is something which I went through, and but it was an important chapter in my life, because had I not gone through this chapter, it wouldn't have made sense. All the fancy things that I spoke about in the classrooms when I was an academic, when I taught literature and all of those things, those are just words, right? I now deeply understand what it means. And also, with my book, even if it's, even if it's not like a bestseller or anything, if I'm seeing those tiny glimmers of hope in people who read it, they feel touched and, moved by this book. And so that's allowed me to understand that I can be a writer for the rest of my life, because I essentially know the whole process, right? I know how to. I actually was able to use my sort of um, like role as a housewife and turn it on its head to become a very good writer. For example, like when my husband goes early in the morning to the hospital, he needs a protein shake. Uh, Before I gave him the protein shake, my rule was that I have to sit down with a cup of coffee and get 200 to 300 words of my manuscript down on my sheet of paper. So he'll get the protein shake, but I first need to get my work done. So like that, I started tying his schedule towards little goals that I had set for myself. And I still do that. I've already been able to finish 70% of my second book within 1 year, because I have been able to use my time now with a lot of discipline. So I now no longer lament that, yeah, I'm not working in a corporate office or whatever. I have freedom. I have freedom to do some very cool and creative work. So I've taken a lot more chances of working with other individuals, freelancing and creating interesting content. I worked for a magazine, for example, for millennials, which they wanted somebody who can write their career column. Uh, and since I had made so many mistakes when I was out looking for a job, right, I was able to write a very funny and humorous column for them, directed mostly at millennials. So when you take your pain, right, and you turn it on its head, you can create something beautiful out of it. That's what I believe. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Essentially, it means that you elevate yourself uh, and go above the pain, and you
Yes.
try to do something constructive with it rather than wallowing in that misery. So
Right,
yeah,
right. There's always a lesson, isn't there?
yeah,
When we reflect to kind of look back or look at it, rise above it, and see what the lesson is.
yeah,
Sometimes we can't see it right away, and it takes a
right,
while.
yeah.
Even sometimes we might even miss the lesson if we don't ponder it enough or look at it to get the lesson out of it, we can miss it. But so you've never gone back to the age four attempts at working. You've just really taken on your writing and painting, and that's been your world.
So the second thing which I'm trying to do is that, yes, writing is something which I'm doing on a very consistent basis. I work for a couple of people freelance, and I will not give up on this career of like producing books, because I realized that my voice is pretty strong. So, and I have been able to find like the right editors and mentors who can support my process, my entire literary process. But in terms of a job, I started training as a programmer. So I took on courses like boot camps in software engineering, right? Because I'm a very visual person, because I paint. Um, Programming is a lot of like visual logic. But I will have to confront my fear once I finish the entire training bit of it, to go back into the workplace and try for jobs. And that is something I will have to overcome. I have developed huge anxiety when it comes to just the job application process because of what I experienced. But I think that it can be tackled in multiple ways, and I will just have to deal with it. And there are women who have been on this visa, and one of the reasons why they have opted to not work is because they could not overcome this fear after huge gaps in their career. So if they were not able to work for, say, 10 years or even 5 years, it's the fear of being stuck in, in what feels very familiar, right? So it becomes comfortable after some time. If suppose I have kids, hey, it's okay, I'll take care of my baby, right? But if I really want to be out there and do something, like I personally want to be able to create, say, apps which can help writers and artists sell their books better. Because as writers, we may be able to create a great piece of work, but how do you monetize it? So I have certain ideas, and I have certain ideas for an app, but that's where I need to learn how to use my skill set as a programmer. And I will only be able to do that if I go and work in a company, right? And I'm much older than when I started out. So I will have to overcome my fear. And that's going to happen pretty soon, because in a couple of months, I'll be in that situation where I'll be back applying to jobs, and I have to
Right.
face it. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're still on the H4. Your husband hasn't transitioned to like citizenship and all of that. Are you still in the
We're in
H4?
the queue. We are in the queue. So
Still.
basically, he's been in America for how many years now? I think it's a little over 20 years. I have been here for 11 years now.
And
That's
you're still H1B and H4?
We just switched where we are transitioning from our. So right now we're still dependent on those. So it's that's what I told you. 12 to close to about 17 years to 150 years seems to be. It's one of the most productive periods in an immigrant's life, right? Um, and people in this, at least in the South Asian community, I know that the queue can be that long. For some people, it won't even be a possibility, right? So we have to wait it out. That's the only way. And up until then, at least I have the legal right to work, right? I have my employment card. So again, I will focus on what I have as opposed to what I don't have, because you know uh, that's where I want to direct my attention. And programming is, so far, it's been like fun and interesting. It's a very different ball game, but again, I've forced myself to start something new, right, from the scratch, trying to reinvent myself. um, yeah, and I'll just have to take my chance and see where that leads me. But on the other hand, what keeps me anchored on a daily basis is that I do have a writing schedule and I have a painting schedule. And that keeps me very grounded. So on a daily basis, I'm churning out really interesting work without anybody having to hold me accountable. I've learned to write screenplays, like for short films and things like that. So I meet other writers in the city. Um, like even with the paintings, I've made more than 60 or 70 paintings. Now I want to figure out how I'm going to exhibit it in, say, New York, right? And things like that. So there's always something which I'm creating, and then I'm trying to figure out what is the next, where can I take this next? So I try to focus on that.
Yes, great, great, great. What a story. I like to ask my guests at the end of our interviews, is there anything humorous that has taken place over the years, like something that you look back now and you just laugh at yourself and be like, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe I said that. What is some humorous experience that you've had over the years that you just crack up at right now that we would find hilarious?
Yeah, like this was very early when I would go shopping to the grocery store, and the guy would ask me, "Hi, how are you?" And I would actually tell him in great detail how I'm doing that day. How are you? Hi, how are you? Good, how are you? I didn't know that you're just supposed to say that, so I would like literally just sit and tell him everything. Like he's like, this guy is so nice. I need to tell him everything about what's how I'm actually feeling. And now I know his eyes would just get bigger and bigger. And he's like, when is this woman gonna stop talking? And also like one of our first few dates in Michigan when I was newly married, my husband said he wants to take me out to a place where I can try sliders, right? Which is pretty much like those mini burgers. And I was like, okay, great, but I don't know what sliders are. So he's like, just be ready. I'll be back home by this much time. I thought he's taking me to a really fancy place. So by the time he reached home, I'm dressed in this really cute cocktail dress. And he's like, aren't you a little overdressed for the occasion? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he's like, why are you dressed like, why are you in a, I'm like, stop drawing attention to what I'm wearing, because I was anyway feeling very awkward. He's like, okay, I'll just be quiet. And then we finally go to the place and it's literally like a burger joint, right? And I'm like in high heels and this black cocktail dress. He's like, oh wow.
Whew, I'm having some tension right here from the laughing, but that is hilarious. But I actually didn't know what those were too. I had to learn. I literally
Okay.
had to learn, and I can certainly relate to the experience of someone asking you, saying good morning, and you holding a conversation or giving them more details. And with Americans, they're always like talk net. They just want the hello, good morning, and just keep it moving,
Yes.
right? Or sometimes I remember even trying to have a conversation when someone say good morning, how are you, and
Yeah.
they're gone walking, and here I am prepared to have a little conversation. It's a cultural thing. It's so different from people from the communal collectivist world versus
Yeah.
the individualistic culture. Like people here are about showing up at work on time. In India
Yes.
or any other place around the world, if your neighbor has a problem, you'll probably stop to help them on your way
Yeah.
to work, which
Yes.
means you're going to end up being late to work, right? So
Right.
it's that community dynamic that is so different here in the US
Yeah.
that you're expressing there, but so many of us struggle with that, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
but that's hilarious. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. But Varuni, what a story. I am so moved by it. I have never heard this one, and I'm so grateful that I joined and that you've shared that with me today. Please tell us, for a call to action at the end here, please tell us the name of your book again. Where can people find it? And how they can support you, your writing, and perhaps collaborate with you. You never know who's listening. We have people listening in over 50 countries. So any messages, special messages that you might have for immigrants, you can drop that at the end as well.
Sure. So my book, it's called Golden Handcuffs: An Immigrant's Pursuit of Happiness. It is available on Amazon as well as Barnes and Nobles. I have like the Kindle version of the book is going to always be super cheap, so it's $2.99 because the goal of my book is just to touch lives. When I set out, launching this book, my goal was that if even one individual is able to turn their lives around after reading this story, then I've succeeded. I'm not trying to do anything else out here. But if you just go on Amazon, the first 4 chapters happen to be free. Um, and as soon as you read them, what I've found out is that people can't stop reading it. So just give it a try, and if you guys feel that it's something for you, and if you enjoy love stories with a beautiful message, I guess this book is for you. And for immigrants, I'll just say, um, I think being an immigrant, um, you're actually a superhero. So completely tune out anything that you listen to in the news. And sometimes it's very healthy. In fact, it is very important that you don't watch the news. That's what I had to learn to do, because just focus on the people in your community, your life, on your day to day. If you feel you get triggered, I'm not saying don't be ignorant about what's going on in terms of the politics of the country, here or back home, but be anchored in the world in front of you. Um, and Yeah, and that also means being present here on a day-to-day basis, because that's one thing which I learned when I came here. In the beginning, I would always want to keep talking to people back home, and that does not allow you to actually focus on your reality here. So try to make the most of your day here. Be present, and that will give you, you know, answers to problems that you might be up against.
Yes, yes, yes. That has been my practice journey now for, I want to say, more deliberately since my mom passed in 2021, is really just trying to be present. It's so easy to dwell in the past and live in regrets and look back constantly. It's like our mind is just programmed to do that,
Yeah.
or daydream about the future and tomorrow. And so we miss what's really going on today, right at this moment.
Right.
We miss our lives. And so I would
Yeah.
definitely echo that. Try to be present. One of my favorite authors is Eckhart Tolle, and he really has helped me to get out of my head
Yeah.
and more into my body, and pay attention to nature and what's going on around me, and not really try to resist how
Yeah.
life is flowing for you right now.
Yeah.
Just really try to live in acceptance, and just flow with it, right? And you'll find so many synchronicities when you really pay attention, because we miss so much of what the blessings, the little miracles that are happening right now, because we're constantly either in yesterday or tomorrow.
Yes.
And so we really just need to be present and just watch for those little miracles that are always happening. And
Yes.
it definitely will bring us more joy and life for each moment, right? So it's been such a pleasure, Varuni, listening to your story. Thank you so much for being so authentic and sharing it with us. We welcome you back to give us updates later on when your next book is out, and let us know how things are developing with you overcoming the fear of entering the work world. It's been quite a journey for you, and I really do send you positive vibrations, and hoping that this time around that you'll break the camel's back, or whatever, however way you want to put it. You'll really get past this hurdle of just finding meaningful work,
Yeah.
including, and I do think it's part of your purpose, to continuing this writing path, and the painting. It's part of your healing, it's part of your light that you're bringing to the world. So let's see how this all develops in the next several years.
Thank you so much, Simone, and thank you for having me. Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure. Are you still in New York?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, enjoy Brooklyn for me. Enjoy that great food over there. Say hello to your husband. Best wishes to you and the family.
Thank you. To you too, Simone. Thank you. Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye.
Bye bye.
We thank our listeners around the world, and we appreciate your continued support as we build our human library. Please remember to give us a 5-star review, subscribe, and share with your friends, family, and circle of influence.